Today I want to start by playing the testimony of Nicki Oshinsky. Now it's a long video. It's the first one that we ever made back in 2001, and most of our videos are anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, just a short summary. This one, I'm going to spend 2 days playing this, but let me just say that this was such a miraculous healing, and it totally caught me off guard. I didn't realize how bad the situation was, that when I heard the testimony, I thought we've got to do something, and I asked Stephen Bransford, the guy who put me on television and runs our television department, I asked him if he could just make a video and explain it, and it is so powerful. I tell you, it has brought tears to my eyes every time I've heard it. So we're going to start with this one. This is just kind of the beginning. It's not the first healing I ever saw happen, but it's the first one that I ever had my team go and document. And it has been a super blessing to me, and I know this will be a blessing to you. So watch this. This is the first half of Nicki Oshinsky. Now she's married. Her name is Weller, Nicki Oshinsky Weller. And at the end of the program, I'll come back and share with you about how you can receive this testimony or this healing video, and it'll be a blessing to you.
The beginning of it was, I was 14 years old, and we had gone to Wednesday night service.
2 cars in front of us went out of control, hit the median, and came bouncing off the median across us, now going sideways, backwards, and every way except for forward. And I slowed down.
The accident, what a weird thing to have happen on the way home from church. I mean, life is wonderful, and then all of a sudden, bang.
We were hit right where I was. The car hit us from behind, we spun around. I slammed against the window, then we came to a screeching halt.
We couldn't hardly talk because of the fear of the accident. It was raining, it was dark, there were other cars involved. We just lumped up in the back seat and started singing. Everything's going to be all right.
When the ambulance arrived and the police arrived, Mom was in the back seat trying to comfort me, and we were singing, "I've got a feeling everything is going to be all right." I'm going to cry. As the ambulance went on, and I knew in my spirit that something had changed, but I knew it was going to be all right from then on. About 6 months after the accident, I had a pain in my left hip, and it just started hurting and hurting.
Not only was her hip hurting, but she had other weird symptoms, like her legs would be cold and the trunk of her body would be hot.
So we went to the doctor that everybody goes to for sniffles and sprained ankle and all that. And she took x-rays and poked around on my leg and said, "I can't find anything wrong with you." So I went home, and the pain got worse and worse. It eventually spread throughout my entire body.
There were some points where Chris and I looked at each other and said, "Where's this going to go?"
One of the things that I noticed early that stopped was natural crying. Nicki didn't cry when she was in pain. She would lay in pain, but she quit crying after not too long. One day she told me though, she said, "Mom, if I ever start crying, I'm never going to stop. It just hurts too much."
After about 2 years, I went to a rheumatologist, which I had seen the year before, and had given me the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, which is the sister to chronic fatigue syndrome, but the opposite of it, because pain is more important than you being fatigued. And so he had given me that diagnosis, and really it's, we don't know what's wrong with you, so we'll call it this.
There was no cure, there was no answer. It was, if you had fibromyalgia, you had to learn to live with it. And we didn't want to accept that as an answer. There had to be something curable wrong. And he said, "All I can do is give you sleeping pills to help her rest at night and pain pills to cope during the day."
I remember for at least 2 years, between 1 and 4 in the morning, I would go to bed about 10. Then between 1 and 4 in the morning, Mom would always end up I'd have to end up going get Mom or yell for her, you know, depending on what my body was doing that time. And I was living in this foil-covered, sterile environment with a $300 air purifier and some distilled water in a glass jar because I couldn't drink from plastic because plastic would make me sick. and that was the sick room. When you're sick, a day is forever. And so many things can go wrong in a day when you're sick. Then people say, well, you do it for an hour. An hour is a very long time. If you watch a clock for an hour, it is a very long time. Well, you can do it for a minute. I can do it for a minute. If you ever sit there, and I challenge you to get a clock out and watch the second hand go around for a whole minute, that is a very long minute. I used to tell Mom I can do anything for half a second. Not even a second, because you can measure it. Anything you can measure can be very long. I can do anything for half a second with the grace of God. For half a second, I trusted God. And then for the next half a second, I trusted God. And then for the next half a second, I complained that my feet were hurting. And then the next half a second, I was convicted, so I trusted God. Anybody can do anything for half a second with the grace of God.
Andrew will be right back after these messages.
We give away a lot of free product. We now have over 100 million books, DVDs, CDs that I have distributed free of charge. You can go to our website, and I have over 200,000 hours of free teaching there. If you listen 8 hours a day, it would take you 66 years to get through. We've got a lot of free material, so check it out at awmi.net. We want to be a blessing and share God's Word with you.
And now, here's Andrew.
Something that she taught us through all of this is how to enjoy life. The moment, it didn't have to be big, it didn't have to be Disney World, it was the moment. Mom, look at that little girl. Look at that smile. Mom, look at that nice lady. You know, wasn't that sweet the way the checkout girl talked to me today? Or, I sure like wearing this blue shirt. You know, just the small, little wonderful things that we all take for granted.
If there's anything that made it work for me, it was her laughter every day. It might not have been for long, but it was always there.
We had heard about a clinic that was specifically for people who had symptoms that didn't connect with each other.
When we went to that clinic and I started getting saline IVs, which I were allergic to, and started getting saunas, is when it all sped up like fast forward.
Her whole muscular tone absolutely went out the door.
I was very shocked when I saw her, because the last time I saw her was about 4 or so years ago, and she was walking around her own power and being able to function very well. I examined her as best I could. I couldn't get her up and move around because she was not able to do that.
I was in a wheelchair full time. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't get myself out of bed. I couldn't bathe myself. Mom and Dad did everything for me.
It was a struggle to care for her like an infant and treat her like a 19-year-old young woman.
We were 19 and I was feeding my sister food. I mean, that was stupid. Like you would feed a baby, I was feeding my sister.
My hand had started atrophying like this, and my feet would turn inside. The doctors always commented how my feet would roll inward. They're supposed to roll outward when you relax, but they had atrophied inward. That's a sign of death.
And I said, Lord, I've got to know, is Nikki going to die?
Chris informed me that she really wanted to go to church because there was a guest speaker that night. I said, sure, go ahead, I'm here.
We heard that Andrew Wommack was coming to our church, and I thought, this will be great. I'll just go to Andrew.
Mom took her cell phone for when I had to use the restroom, because I'm close to Dad, but not that close. And she went to church.
Andrew started out and he said, you know, tonight I would like to talk to you all about grace and faith. And I thought, oh good, here we go, grace and faith again. How he shared the message of grace and faith was that grace was always there. Grace is always there. And faith is the name for our response to grace. And I'd never heard faith taught like that before.
And 2.5 hours later, I called her and I said, Mom, I'm going to come home. I have to use the restroom. Hurry, I've been here too long.
Andrew just got up, taught on healing, then he said, all right, anybody that's in pain, come up.
I ran up in front of the next person in line. I just ran up there because I had no choice. I had to get home. I don't know who I got in front of, but oh well. And I said, hi Andrew, my name's 𝗪𝗏 and I have a 19-year-old daughter at home. Would you come and pray for her?
And he said, well, sure.
And Mom brought the tape home from Andrew's teaching that Wednesday night, and I listened to it. When he said, progressive miracles aren't the complete will of God, I didn't get offended, but I said, you're right, because I was afraid of being instantly healed because of where I was mentally. Even though I knew God wanted me to heal me, and I did want to be healed, don't get me wrong, but it had gone on for so long. And he said, you know how you're saved by grace through faith? I understood that. But you're also healed by grace through faith. And Jesus died on the cross 2,000 years ago. And he did it, and he healed you then with his blood. And all you got to do is take it and say, it's mine. He just wants you healed because he loves you. And I heard that and I thought, that's right. And I said, Mom, that was good. I'm really excited about tomorrow, Mom.
And I absolutely knew that if Nikki could get a hold of this message and have the understanding that was in my heart, she would be healed.
One of the standard conversations Nikki and I had for about 2-3 weeks before that was, Nikki, if you can just make your legs fall off of that chair so I can see your feet hit the floor, it sure would make Dad feel good. And she'd always say, Dad, I'm trying, Dad. And they never hit the floor.
So the next day, Andrew was going to come over with my pastor, Pastor Rich.
Andrew was going to come in just a few hours and it was all going to be over. Every promise that God had made to us was about to come to pass in a moment, in just a moment. When Andrew got to our home, he walked in very nonchalantly and calmly.
He came in and Nikki was laying there just, totally bedridden.
And he said, hi, Nikki, my name is Andrew, and I believe you're going to get healed today. And I looked at him and I said, I do too. And I was like, if I could have gone like that, I would have. I can't believe I just said that. But I knew I was going to be healed.
It's amazing to me how articulate Nikki and her mom and her whole family was in describing how desperate the situation was. And today, that's primarily what we've shown. But on our program tomorrow, we're going to finish this testimony and show you the miraculous healing. And I tell you, it caused a move of God, not only in Nikki and her family, but in many people. We just have seen many people healed. Plus, many people take this video, and I could say that there's probably 100 people or more that have told me that the testimony of 𝗕cie is what really turned them on to healing. And so we're offering the video, number one, that you saw today, just a portion of it. We're also offering teaching on healing, and we have actually 9 different videos of healing testimonies. So listen to our announcer as he gives you this information, and please take advantage of this. I guarantee you it'll be a blessing to you.